I don't know about you, but I am a fan of surprise drops of games. There's something so satisfying about a game that, maybe you've heard of it before, maybe you heard it was coming to a platform, or maybe it's just something completely out of left field, and then all of a sudden, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, it's on your platform of choice. And with third-party games on the Nintendo Switch 2, there really hasn't been a lot of run-up for some of these games. A couple weeks at a time, maybe. It gets announced, and then it reveals, and then it comes out. And, I mean, some of them have been really good. Some of them not so much, but obviously we're in the early stages of the system. We're in the early stages of figuring out how to optimize the Nintendo Switch 2. But when it comes to an older game that's being brought over to the platform, expectations get a little bit higher, and rightfully so. Especially if it's a game that exists on another piece of hardware that is tied in with the Switch 2. Skyrim Anniversary Edition was announced for the Nintendo Switch 2 yesterday with a Switch 2 version, and then it came out, and everyone was like, whoa! Well, I mean, it's Skyrim. Like, this is an Xbox 360 game at its core. I feel like most people that have played Skyrim, that have wanted to play Skyrim, have already played the game and all that sort of stuff. How much of a new audience are you really tapping into? But now it's become like a running joke. It's like Doom. Is Doom on it? You put Doom on like a refrigerator or something like that. I don't know, man. People are crazy, but Skyrim has become that game. And it seemed like, Skyrim Anniversary Edition did come out on the Nintendo Switch 1, and it wasn't great. But like with the additional power of the Switch 2, this should be an absolute home run, considering it's a, Xbox 360 PS3 game. You gotta remember, we just had the free update for Red Dead Redemption that I covered on the channel, and it was awesome. 60 frames per second, better lighting, sharper textures, HDR support, mouse controls. It felt like a completely new game. And I mean, that's a great game to begin with. So I'm sure. Oh, man. I'm sure Bethesda's going to do a great job with Skyrim Anniversary Edition for the Switch 2. This big surprise drop. No. And they have screwed this up. And it's almost like there's a common denominator with Bethesda's decline in quality. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. But Skyrim Job Anniversary Edition on the Switch 2 is a disaster. It's a complete nonsensical update that is so poorly optimized, it barely runs half the time. So what's going on with this? We're going to talk about it and stuff like that, because I have a lot of things to say about this. So first and foremost, the upgrade path isn't terrible. It's definitely not bad. I think they did a decent enough job. If you have the baseline version of Skyrim on the Switch 1, for $20, you can get the Anniversary Edition. Now, I said I would pay around $10 in yesterday's video, but $20 is not terrible if it's a high-quality port. If you have the Switch 1 version of the Anniversary Edition, you get a free upgrade, and then you can also buy the Switch 2 version. So what's so bad about it? What's the problem here? This should be a home run. Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The frame rate of the game. Because the frame rate of the game is 30 frames per second. Now, what do I always say about frame rates? 30 frames is okay in some games. I prefer 60, but I could still enjoy a game at 30 frames per second. However, this game I think this game can buy alcohol, like, legally. Like, there's no reason for this game to run at 30 frames per second on the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, yes, it is using a different sort of graphical engine that from the original Skyrim. The Anniversary Edition did different things with textures and lighting and stuff. I get it. You improved upon stuff on other platforms. I understand where you're coming from with this. However, these improvements did not translate well over to the Switch 2 version of the game. It's running at 30 frames per second, and that's going to impact your gameplay experience as well when it comes to this. because it's going to feel completely different than it would on another console. And if other games hadn't just came out, if Red Dead Redemption just didn't come out, which is arguably a larger game, maybe not density-wise, because Skyrim is a pretty dense game, but, like, in terms of, like, things that are happening, I think the randomization of Red Dead is a little bit more impressive than Skyrim, and it runs at twice the frame rate. Let's take a look at this Reddit thread over here, and, you know, Skyrim Switch 2 is absolutely terrible. I'm going to turn my camera on so you can see my reaction. So Switch 2 upgrade for Skyrim just dropped, and it's a disaster. First, if you have the physical game and the Anniversary Edition DLC, you have to manually delete everything and the game icon. Then re-download the base game without the AE, Anniversary Edition DLC, to access the free upgrade from the in-game menu. Because it's not just an update like Hogwarts Legacy, you have to download the whole 53 gig data to play the game. Only good point is that you can remove your original Skyrim cartridge now and still play. But once you're in game, the horror show begins. Input lag beyond playability. And I mean worse input lag than online Smash Brothers here. There's like a whole second between me flicking the stick and my character moving its head. I won't even speak about it being 30 frames for a 2011 game in 2025. I guess it's only 14 years old. You could drink in, like, some European countries at that age. Console capable of running at Cyberpunk at 40. I'll just say the frame pacing is not even stable. And the game crashes after less than 10 minutes. Pure Bethesda experience. So frame pacing, you know, that's kind of one of my holdups when it comes to a game. You know, 30 frames per second isn't terrible, but if frame pacing is terrible, then we have a problem. We can also take a look here at a mini review done by Nintendo Life. It's still 30 frames per second, feels less smooth due to terrible input lag, awkward download, nothing new content-wise, 4 out of 10. And, you know, volumetric effect, like, who cares about this shit? Depth of field, graphical enhancement, like, I get it. You know, those are nice things. But I think most people would rather have, you know, like 60 frames so that it feels better. So that it feels like a better experience. You know, some people don't need all these bells and whistles when it comes to this stuff like this. But this is just piss poor optimization. And then you start to think about, well, how this game rolled out. With the surprise reveal, with the shadow drop of the game, it's almost like Bethesda knew that this was not a good game. And they were like, you know, they saw Red Dead. Red Dead got an announcement. Then the game came out. And everyone loved it. They were like, great update. This is so much better than the Switch 1 version. And it was free. Thank you. I don't need the Anniversary Edition of Red Dead. And I think they were just like, let's just get this out the door. Let's just do it, and we can fix it later, because now we live in the age of fix it later games. Your game could come out like a complete piece of shit on day one, but it doesn't matter anymore, because now gamers are so, you know, they're so forgiving with things like that. Meanwhile, if a movie comes out and the movie sucks, that's it. That's it for the movie. That's it for the album. That's it for the TV show. But for some reason, gamers who pay more than a movie costs, a game costs more than a movie. But we're supposed to be the forgiving ones. We're supposed to be the ones that are like, oh, no, it's fine. They can fix it later. They can patch the game later. But I think the bigger thing going on with this is, you got to remember, Fallout 4 is also coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. And since Bethesda was acquired by a studio, there's definitely been a decline in quality. I think everyone can see that. I think everyone realizes that. And I'm not saying that it's a cause and effect. I'm not saying that because Microsoft purchased Bethesda, now there's been a decline in quality, because Bethesda used to be called Bugthesda, because their games were indeed very buggy. But it seems like things are getting like worse with a lot of these games and a lot of these reissues of these games. and there's really no sort of quality control. And some of the experiences when it comes to the newer games just haven't really met the mark for a lot of Bethesda fans. I'm not saying it's a cause and effect situation, but if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, I don't think it's a moose. But yeah, I would not buy this. Like, I guess if you have Skyrim Anniversary Edition on your Switch 1 already, like, I mean, it's free. Check it out. I'm not paying $20. You're out of your mind. This is not a $20. There's no quality here. Where's the quality? Where's the quality control? We are the beta testers nowadays, folks. Just put the game out there. The community will tell us what's wrong with it. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think of this in the comments section down below. Did you pick up the Anniversary Edition of Skyrim for the Switch 2? How have you been enjoying it? Because you probably shouldn't be enjoying it. But if you are enjoying it, hey, you know, more power to you. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.